In the Winners Club Masterclass land. I'm so excited to have today's speaker, Miss Angie Noll. Me and Angie have known each other for maybe a couple years now. And so she's phenomenal. And I'm very excited that you are taking time out of your busy schedule to educate us today. And so before we get into the actual presentation, I want to give you all a little bit of information about the Winners Club, just in case you are not familiar. We are a business development consulting company in Illinois. We offer three main services. So we do business coaching, we do access to capital through grant writing and loan preparation, and then we do business education. So this masterclass is a part of our business education offering. And we also have an online course. It's an 8-week course. Our next cohort begins March 6th. We have a sponsor that came on recently to give 3 scholarships to 3 people who want to be a part of the masterclass, or a part of the online course, but may not be able to afford the cost. It is $1,250 for the full 8-week course. You get the outcomes are a business plan and a pitch deck, and you also get expert guidance from an accountant, marketing specialist, a IP attorney, as well as a business banker to help you understand more just about how to access capital. Basically, that's what's really important, and what most people are looking to do is to access capital or get started the right way. So that's a little bit about the Winners Club and our service offerings. Now, I want to allow all of you all to introduce yourselves to each other, and especially to our expert guest today. And I'm going to start with the first person on my screen, and that is Brian. So if you can introduce yourself, give us your 30-second elevator pitch and a fun fact about yourself, please, Brian.
Hello, everybody. My name is Brian Gregory. I'm the owner of a soft serve ice cream shop located in East St. Louis. It's called Mellow Freeze. We've been around for 47 seasons serving the community of East St. Louis and the St. Louis metro area. Fun fact about myself, my absolute favorite candy of all time is Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, hands down.
That's a good one. I love Reese's. They are delicious. It's like the perfect ratio of peanut butter and chocolate. It is really delicious. Dangerous. Okay. So next on my screen is Miss Shirley.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shirley Hawksett. My business is Destiny Speaks Speakers Bureau. I work with entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and executives to help build a platform to showcase their expertise using this platform of public speaking at corporations and conferences, really using that platform as a business development, customer acquisition strategy for their business. Fun fact about me, I don't know if it's so much fun, but I grew up on a farm.
Like what kind of farm? Did you all have all the animals?
Yeah, chickens.
Really?
Cows, pigs, cotton.
You killed your dinner? You killed your meals?
Yeah, we played with it and killed it in the evening.
That is interesting, though. I said I wanted to take an agricultural class. I think it's important to be able to at least grow your own vegetation.
Exactly. You know? Yeah.
That's cool.
So we did it all.
That's cool. Where was the farm?
Oh, it was in Mississippi.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
And then Rachel, if you can give us your introduction, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel, and I create crystal and sustainable handmade jewelry. I'm very early in my business process, but I'm very excited for this webinar. And the goal of my business is to help create a more sustainable fashion type of industry, and also create it for more festival type of jewelry, and try to create fashion a little bit more fun. So that's a little bit about my business. A fun fact about me, I'm trying to think about this at the top of my head, but I don't know if you guys know much about kombucha, but I used to brew my own kombucha, and I still kind of do a little bit now. But yeah, that's just, I guess, a little fun fact. I know it's very random, but I'm just trying to think at the top of my head right now.
I don't know what that is. What is, we said kombucha?
It's called kombucha. I feel like it's a trend nowadays, but it's like a fermented tea. So it's where you have like a little, I don't know, you can have it in your home, and you just kind of create this SCOBY, which that's a whole nother description. But yeah, it's just a very different thing. So I just thought it's random, so I'm going to share it right now.
That's good. I learned something. I had never heard of that. And I'm not a big tea drinker like that, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you for sharing. And then last but certainly not least, Miss Angie, if you can give us your introduction.
Hi, my name's Angie Noll, and I am the owner of Reconciled Solutions. We help small businesses find sustainability and profitability with their business. And we're QuickBooks Online experts, so we do a lot of QuickBooks support, ongoing bookkeep, QuickBooks fixer-uppers, setups, that kind of stuff. And then we combine it with the advisory services of Profit First Coaching. And I'm also a certified Fix This Next coach. And a fun fact about me is Shirley, I'm going to share the fact that I also grew up on the farm. The farm I grew up on was on the Minnesota-South Dakota border. And I had a cat named Foo-Foo. And my cat was an outdoor cat. It got caught in the trap for the mice and lost its leg. And well, it sort of slow rotted until I finally pulled it off. So I have amputated a cat's leg.
Yikes. Okay. I dissected a dead pig in high school and I was traumatized. So the fact that you're ripping legs off, okay, that's a different way of living. Okay. Cause I just, no. How did it, so a mouse trap was that strong that it messed up the cat's arm that bad?
Maybe it was a rat trap, but
okay,
we had more problems with mice than we did with rats. You know, it's the country, so the rats don't have any scraps out there. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, but yeah, it was right at the knuckle, and it just did damage.
Wow.
You just snapped it off, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting. You said you had an outdoor cat. We had an outdoor cat too, and a friend just like totally went ballistic on me for it's like, how could you do that? So our cat was Puffy.
Yeah, all the animals were
all of the dogs, everything was outdoors.
Dogs and cats, pets were kept outdoors.
Exactly.
Now I'm here in the Chicago suburbs, and I have 3 kids, and they had to beg and beg and beg me for a dog. And the second we got that dog, I was like, animals are meant for the outdoors. They're not meant for living in my house. They're certainly not going to be on my bed. And man, that dog's always on my bed. I love that dog.
That's funny. Awesome. Well, thank you all for your introductions. I feel like we know each other a little better. And now we can get into the reason that we're here tonight. And that is Angie's presentation, Set Your Business Up for Profitability Masterclass. So I will give it to you now, Angie, and I will mute myself.
All right. Thank you, Christina. I'm very excited to be with you all tonight and to be sharing the message of putting profitability first in your business so that as you are growing, you're always paying yourself. I know from my own personal experience and from the clients that I've been working with for 4 years now as a Profit First professional that we're not always profitable. And it's a little ugly secret in the small business community that we don't like to talk about. But I'm here to talk about it and to bring it out. And I think I can do that very well because I'm a person who's been in business for 14 years. I started my business in 2007, and I was helping people with financial services, bookkeeping, and helping them keep track of their finances and live on a budget and all these wonderful things. And my dirty little secret was that I couldn't figure out how to make a profit. I certainly knew how to sell. I came from a sales background, a corporate background, and I was very good at sales. But I didn't know how to lead and I didn't know how to make a profit. So I grew very quickly in terms of sales, and I had a staff of 5 by the time I was 6 years in business. I had a staff of 5, and we were delivering bookkeeping and financial services to small businesses and individuals on their personal finance side. But I couldn't make the darn numbers work. I wasn't getting paid anything. I was completely stressed out. I was going to every 8 a.m. networking meeting, a 5 p.m. cocktail hour. And like I said, I was good at the sales side, but I couldn't figure out why I couldn't make any money. And this all came to a head in around 2013. I went to make payroll and I didn't have any money to pay myself. And I overdrafted by $34 paying my other people on staff. And I thought, what am I doing? This is craziness. Okay, I still couldn't figure it out. And to that end, I thought, this is probably my low point. No, I took it even one step lower. And I decided to invest in a business partner to get me out of my cash flow crunch. So I brought in a 40% business partner owner just for that influx of cash that she brought with her. It was somebody that was already working for me. That was one of my 5 people on staff. It was not a marriage made in heaven. We didn't get along. There was a lot of fundamental things that we just did differently. Lovely person, but it didn't work out. And then we had to go through a business divorce. And a business divorce is much like a personal divorce. It's kind of ugly and messy. So the end result of it was by 2014, I only stayed in partnership with this woman for 1 year. And I was like, this isn't working. I closed up that partnership. I scaled down my practice. I went back to being just a solo entrepreneur and handling the business that I could focus on. That helped me over the course of the next 2 years build my confidence and my skill set as far as it was related to leadership and making sure that I had all the tactics and tools I needed to help my clients. So I worked 2 years quietly on my own. And what happened is all those first 6 years of going to networking events and those 8 a.m. those 8 a.m. meetings, well, my phone started organically ringing. And so I'm like, okay, I'm smarter and wiser. This time I can build it. And so I started building it and things were going pretty well. I saved up enough money to go to a professional conference. The reason I chose this conference was because it was at Atlantis in the Bahamas. And heck, I wanted to go to that place. You can slide through the water slide and see sharks on both sides of you. So I'm like, oh, great. So I headed down to the Bahamas and enjoyed a business conference. I knew how to be profitable when it was just myself in business. And when I was there, I heard this fantastic speaker. His name was Mike Michalowicz. He had this book called Profit First. He introduced it to us and it changed my life. How come I didn't know this already? How come I couldn't figure it out for myself? So from that point on, I started implementing Profit First in my business and I became a Profit First professional. And so since like late 2016, early 2017, I've been a Profit First professional. And I've been helping clients with that. So I'm going to pull up my slideshow now. Okay, so you can see my screen?
Yeah, it sounds like you're a little far away from the microphone.
I can turn up the microphone volume. Does that help any?
Yes.
Okay, so I got the microphone volume up a little bit. I'm going to start explaining the concept of Profit First. So the concept of Profit First is this, that the typical accounting model has always been that sales minus expenses equals profit. But in Profit First, we switch that around. And instead of saying sales minus expenses equals profit, we say sales minus profit equals expenses. So we're putting our own profitability in front of the expenses in our business. Okay, and there's a survey that happened in 2016 by the SBA, the Small Business Administration of the United States. They surveyed 25 million small business. They surveyed small businesses under 25 million in annual revenues. And what they found is that 83% of those businesses living under 25 million in annual revenues were surviving check to check. It was brutal. Only 17% of small businesses could go past one set of checks. Okay. So what that means is that 83% of small businesses out there were waiting for the client to pay to be able to pay themselves and to pay their staff. They didn't have enough money in their bank account to cover the next payroll, only the payroll that's this week, right? And they couldn't take any pay for themselves often because they don't have room for it because they have to pay their team first. So then you're faced with bank overdrafts, poor borrowing choices, you're funding your business on your credit card. And we all know what credit card interests are. You can pay up to 28% on credit card interest. So it's just a mess. And what we want to do with Profit First is change that concept of putting expenses ahead of profit and saying, hey, you know what? I work hard as an entrepreneur. I need to put myself in first position and make sure that my business is profitable. So today we're going to be talking about how to do that and how to execute it in your business. Okay, and I want us all to be in the 17% category of those businesses that have enough money to pay themselves, that they can afford their lifestyle, and that they have more than the next payroll covered so that they're not sweating and losing sleep at night. Because I know, as I've told you from my own personal experience, there's been a few sleepless nights. Being an entrepreneur is a big job and it's not for everybody. And I tell you what, it's a very codependent job, right? The further you go into it, the more it defines you. And sometimes we just have to take ourselves back. And one way we can do that is through creating profitability, through knowing that the business will survive and have profitability in it without us, worrying about every single check that's coming in and following up on every receivable. Okay. Now I got to figure out how to move to the next slide. Okay, I did it. All right. So there are 4 cardinal rules of Profit First that I'm going to go through, and they happen to be very similar to dieting. So if you've ever been in a position where you wanted to take a few pounds off, there's this thing called calorie deficit. In order for us to lose weight, we have to be at a calorie deficit. It's kind of the same concept for Profit First. In order for us to be to have a fiscally healthy and sustainable business, we need to be fit. We need to use small plates. We need to eat our veggies first. We need to put temptation away, and we need to follow a certain frequency of exercise and doing the same repetitive actions, forming better habits, right? So the first thing that Profit First does is we divide our money into small plates. We do that through multiple bank accounts in Profit First. So how many have heard of Profit First before this call tonight? Okay, so Shirley, you're aware of it. Brian is not.
I'm not read the book, but I've seen the book, but I haven't read it.
Okay. So the whole concept is we are putting a place for every dollar in our business. We are designing a place for every dollar in our business. So every dollar comes into the income account first, and that's a bank account. That's a checking account. So we collect all our income into one account. And then we have other accounts in which we are moving our money from income to these other accounts based on percentages. Those percentages are based on history, or if you're like Rachel, who is relatively new in business, we can just start with the ideal percentages. That's a very good place to start because it gives you an immediate budget to execute in your business. So the small plates, the ways that we spend money in our business are for materials and contractors, for operations expenses, to pay ourselves. That's called owner's pay. That's what we live off of. We pay taxes. Everybody has to pay taxes. If there's a profit, there is taxes. And then the last one is profitability. Okay, so the last thing being profitability, that's like the profit at the end of the day. That is the net income on your profit and loss statement. So that is relatable to portion control in that, you know, we want to have small portions if we're dieting, right? So I'm going to show you the serving tray of different accounts. All of the income from our business comes into one account. That's a checking account, and that's your income account. So here's your display of food. You've got that income account. And from the income account, we have to pay materials and contractors. We have to pay owner's pay. We have to pay tax. We have to pay operating expenses, and we have to pay profit. 3 of those things, the first 3 on the list, profit, owner's pay, and tax, those are all 3 for the benefit of the owner. Okay, owner's pay is what we live off of. So owner's pay is not the fancy trip or the fancy car that you might be driving. Owner's pay puts groceries on the table. It puts shoes on your feet. It puts a roof over your head. That's what owner's pay is. It's what we need to live. And if we want to buy a fancy vacation or a fancy car, we're going to need profit for that. Okay, those things are not necessarily a given, right? That's a treat if we do well in business. Okay, so that would be on the dessert. So profit is like dessert. Okay, operating expenses are what we pay for our marketing and sales. It might be what we pay for our rent. It's going to be the paper and the office supplies that you will use. It's going to be your dues and subscriptions to organizations. If you hire the Winners Club to, do a Masterclass with you, that's a part of your operational expenses. Those are the things that we need to spend money on a day-to-day basis. There's one thing I haven't talked about here, and that is materials and contractors. So we've got Rachel and Brian who have product-based businesses, and Shirley has a service-based business. So Brian's materials and contractors would be inclusive of ice cream and toppings and things of that nature. Rachel's materials and contractors would be the necklace chain, any jewels and gems that are needed to create the jewelry. Those are materials and contractors. I want to talk a little bit about contractors because it has some unusual uses as it relates to profit first. We consider contractors, subcontractors, to be an expense for underneath revenue if it directly impacts the product that you sell. So I'm going to give you an example of a pet walking business. In a pet walking business, let's say every pet walker, half the pet walkers are contractors, subcontractors, and the other half of the pet walkers are employees of the company. Each of those pet walkers, whether they are subcontractor or employee, are paid per walk. So if they walk 3 dogs, they get paid for 3 dogs. If they walk 12 dogs, they get paid for 12 dogs. There is a direct relationship between the income of the company and the service that they provided or the work that they did for that job. So that would be materials and contractors expense. Even though half of those dog walkers are employees and not contractors, there is a direct relationship between the income and their payment. Another example of this is mental health therapists. I work with a lot of mental health therapy businesses, and there is a direct relationship. They're not paid on a salary and they're not paid hourly. They are paid per client that they see. Okay, so as the income of the business increases, so does the therapist's money, because they are paid based on the job that they completed. Now, if you have somebody that is an office staff that's going to work, say the office hours are from, I'm going to be on the job from noon until 8 p.m. today, whether there's a client coming in or not, that's an operational expense. Okay. And the same thing with a contractor. If your contractor is there from noon until 8 p.m., and their pay is based on the hours that they are there and you have scheduled them, and it doesn't matter if they see 12 clients during that time or if they see one client during that time, that is an operational expense. So in my business, I have 5 bookkeepers. Of my 5 bookkeepers, one is a contractor. She is paid by the job she completes. So I say, I've got a job, I'll pay you $1,000 for it. She goes into this first category. She is with materials and contractors. I have another bookkeeper who is paid hourly based on the client work that I give her. So I say, I'm going to have you work on this crawl spaces business and clean up their books. I pay her hourly for the work that she completed. I don't pay her for staff meetings. I don't pay her for answering the phone. I just pay her for the work that she does on that job. I put that into materials and contractors. My other 3 bookkeepers are full-time. I have to pay them whether they're working or they could be sitting around surfing the internet, right? So they are operational expenses to my business, because whether or not there's an influx of clients, I still have to pay them. Okay, and then on top of it, there's 2 more people in my business. I have a full-time operations manager in my business. She's overseeing everything. She goes into operational expenses. And then I have a part-time hourly marketing assistant. That is also an operational expense, because the revenue generated in the business is not tied directly to either of those 2 people. Okay, so that's a very clear difference between what a material and contractor's expense is and what a operational expense is. And what we're saying in the Profit First method is that we haven't made any money in our business until our materials and contractors are paid. So again, going back to the dog walking description, if you are running a dog walking business and you have a bunch of contractors that are out there walking dogs, there is no revenue in the business until you have collected for that dog walking. Okay. So that after it is real revenue. So we have the total income. So say there's $100,000 this month of dog walking that has gone on, and we had to pay our dog walkers $99,000 of that $100,000. That means there's $1,000 left for everything else in the business. So there's $1,000, and from that $1,000, we're going to pay operating expenses, we're going to pay owner's pay, we're going to pay taxes, and we're going to pay profit. Okay, so that can be a little bit confusing. Does anybody have any questions about their own situation? Okay, so I'm going to pick on Shirley. All right, so Shirley, are you independent? Do you have contractors? Do you have employees?
I have contractors, and also when I book the speakers, I get the pay, but I pay the speakers. So the client pay me and then I pay the speakers. So currently, I have 3 accounts in my checking account, so to speak, for the business.
Okay. So so who's your client? The conference, so to speak?
So yes.
So you get paid by the conference,
Mm-hmm.
and the conference is hiring Angie to speak, or
Right.
they've hired Shirley's organization to have Angie speak.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so then you negotiate with me how much you're going to pay me for that.
No. So the speakers that I work with, basically, we have established fee structure for them. And so I get 25% commission on
Okay.
the speaking engagements that I book.
Okay. So a fabulous speaker gets paid. I know Hillary Clinton gets paid like $800,000 when she speaks.
Right.
I hope you have some $800,000 speakers.
Not yet. We're working on that.
So say you're basically representing Hillary Clinton then, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you get 25% of whatever her price is.
Yes.
Okay. So then 75% of that job is going to be your material and contractor expense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So for Brian, he's going to have his employees, if they're assigned to work at the ice cream shop from 10 a.m. when they open until closing, that is an operational expense for him. The cost of the materials, the cost of the ice cream is his materials and contractors expense. Okay, so he's not made any money until the cost of the ice cream has paid. And Shirley has not made any money until the speaker has been paid. Okay, and what's remaining is what is going to be used to run the rest of the business and to pay everything else in the business. So I just want to understand, even though people say, oh, I did $1 million in revenue this year, it doesn't matter what your total revenue is. It matters what your real revenue is, because you could have spent $999,000 on paying people to deliver those products and services, and your real revenue is only $1. And you have to be paid from that $1. So the second rule in Profit First then is to eat your veggies first. So in Profit First, thankfully, we are setting aside our profit first, okay? We are not paying the light bill first, okay? We are paying our materials and contractors. What's left after materials and contractors is real revenue. We're using that real revenue number to pay everything else. And the thing that gets paid first is us, right? We're saying we're putting profit in first position. So to heck with the utility bill, to heck with the rent bill. If I haven't taken my percentage first, then I'm going to have to wait till more income comes in so that I can pay those other bills that are in, that are in my payables. Okay. So the rule is to allocate. So we're setting up these percentages in our businesses, and from that real revenue, we're going to allocate up to 100% for profit, taxes, owner's pay, and operations expenses. Okay, so it has to add up to a total of 100%. So I'm going to go through an example of this, and then maybe we can do an example with one of your businesses. So I'm going to use the example of a creative services firm. So let's say this creative services firm is doing websites and building out websites. They have $600,000 in revenue from 2020. That's their total revenue, all revenue combined. To get to that 600,000, they had a team of 5 people. One of them was the owner. There's one owner in this company. There's an office manager. The office manager gets paid a salary of $50,000 a year, and they're an employee to the company. Okay, then you've got 3 contracted, subcontracted web programmers and designers. Each of those 3 contracted web programmers is making a $70,000 salary each. So 70,000 times 3, 210,000. So I want to know from you guys how much real revenue is in this company. If 600,000 of it was their total revenue, they paid 210,000 to the web programmers and designers who were contracted. And then all we know is that there is one office manager who was paid a salary of $50,000. So
Was
our
it 400,000, right?
Go ahead.
400,000? You said it was 600,000 in revenue, right?
600,000 in
minus the
total
200,
revenue.
minus the 200 for contractors.
Exactly. So 390 remains.
Oh, okay.
So that's your real revenue, $390,000. So you've got $390,000 left. This is called real revenue. And from real revenue, then we're going to pay for profit, owner's pay, tax, and operating expense. So the Profit First book tells us that if we have $390,000 of real revenue, that these should be our percentages. These are the ideal percentages here in column B for a business that has $250,000 to $500,000 in revenues. Now, you can go to your industry association and say, well, that's not typical in the soft serve market. That's not typical in the speaker market. Your industry associations may have things that are more specific to your industry, but in general, what we've seen is that a highly profitable company who has a real revenue range of 250,000 to 500,000 is going to be able to afford a 10% profit. Their owners pay, they can pay themselves about 35% of the real revenue. The tax they need to save at is 15%, and they should only have 40% of operating expenses. So in our case, we have a creative services firm. It's got $600,000 in total revenue. We paid 3 subcontracted web designers, each at $70,000. So that was $210,000 of the $600,000 of total revenue. 600,000 less 210,000 equals 390,000. Our real revenue is 390,000. Of that, 10% should be profit. That's your profit and loss. That's way at the bottom, net income. Okay, so 39,000, right? We got 390,000. So 39,000 is what we should show as net income to our business at the end of the day. Okay, we've spent 90% of that 390,000 on everything else. Okay, they're saying, Mike is saying that 35% of it should be used to pay owner's pay. So if this were the case, if there's one owner in our creative services business and there's $390,000 of real revenue, then that owner should receive a salary of 35% on average. Okay, 35% of 390,000 is 136,500. That's a pretty decent living. If we can make 136,500 annual salary, you know, we can survive. I don't know if we're buying Mercedes and diamond necklaces, but we're surviving, right? We're paying our bills. There's food on our table. There's shoes on our feet.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So if there were multiple owners, it would be divided. That would still be 35% would be allocated, but that number would be divided by the amount of owners that are in the company.
So that depends upon the owner's responsibilities in your company. So profit gets divided by the percentage of ownership. So there's contribution to their company, and there's ownership of the company. Owners pay. So let's say, Christina, that you have a partner in business. Let's say it's 50-50, right? But your responsibility is for sales generation and lead development, and their responsibility is for a technical job. Okay. Those are different contribution levels. So you might have different owners pay based on your responsibilities to the company.
Got it.
But if you're 50-50 partners, then the profit should be
It's still
split
50-50.
50% for you, 50%
Got
for the
it.
partner.
Got it. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because you hear about this all the time. There's a silent partner. Well, they don't get paid owner's pay. They get paid dividends. Profit is like dividends, right? That's the juicy stuff. Like we're buying the fancy vacations that we want. Okay, owner's pay is our contribution to the business. We contributed work on a day-to-day basis for our business. Okay, so we had 390,000 of real revenue. We're going to set aside 15% for tax. That's 58,500. Okay. And then 40% is operational expenses. So that's 156,000. So now we have that 390,000, and that's going to be divided 4 ways. And the total of it adds back up to 100%, or 390,000. You don't have more than 390,000. You can only spend 390,000 because that's all you have, right? Okay, so that's your 100% is your real revenue, and then you split it up to equal different percentages based on the way that you're going to market. So, does anybody know what their materials and contractors, what percentage it is costing their business? So Shirley said that 75% goes to the speaker. Okay. So if Shirley has $1 million business, how much real revenue does she have?
250,000.
Yep. She has 250,000. So she's kind of between column A and B. Okay. If she's a little bit over, she's trying to get to 35% pay and a greater profitability. If she's a little bit under 250,000, she's only trying to take about a 5% profit, and she's trying to take 50 cents of every dollar to pay herself. So if she's got $250,000, we want to see that Shirley is making for herself 125 of it. Now that's a big mark, right? Like $125,000 based on $250,000 of real revenue. It's not easy. And then what's 30%? Well, 25, that's $75,000. She only gets to spend $75,000 on everything else. Okay. So if Shirley hires an admin that's going to cost her $50,000 a year, then she's got $25,000 left to pay for rent and to pay for marketing and to pay for brochures and to pay for her fancy website and all those different things. Do we have any questions on that?
I do have a quick question, actually. So this seems like something that happens with the year-end balance that you have to do these percentages. But how do you work this into real time when you're getting sales, if you will? Like, should you be literally looking at each sale and saying, okay, 5 of this, after the contractor's paid or the materials are paid, okay, I have X amount of dollars from this particular client or contract, 5 should go to profit to this bank account, 50 should go to this bank. Like, is that how it works, or How do you put this into practice real time?
Yeah, so how we put it into practice is that we figure that most people, most small businesses are paying their bills about twice a month, right? You pay the bills kind of at the beginning of the month, you look at the bills again, you pay at the end of the month. So what we do is to collect the money in the income account. No expenses come out of the income account. I just want to be very clear. You have a bank account that's set up only to collect income. Only revenue goes into that account. The only exception to that would be like if people are paying you by credit card and your credit card processor is withdrawing a percentage of the sale to pay for the credit card processing. So that's the only thing that should be coming out of your income account. You want a checking account that is 100% dedicated to collecting money. And then twice a month, typically around the 10th and the 25th of the month, you're going to transfer all of the money out of the income account based on the percentages that you have established. Okay, so we've established that 75% of everything collected, Shirley is going to put that into a materials and contractors account. And from that materials and contractors account, she is then going to pay her speaker. Okay, and then what's left over gets split into those other 4 accounts: the profit, owner's pay, taxes, and operating expenses. Okay, so we're doing that about twice a month. Some businesses do it once a week. It often depends upon how you pay your people. Like in the construction and trades, they're often paying people weekly. Plumbers, electricians, construction, they often pay people weekly, so they do their percentages weekly. Okay, but for most businesses, twice a month is enough. Okay, so twice a month, you're taking the total income that is in your bank and you are transferring it into the different accounts based on the percentages. The only thing that's going to remain in the income account, well, nothing. It can be zero if your bank allows you to have a $0 balance, or if they require you to have $100 balance, you leave the $100 in there, but you transfer everything else out. Okay, so it should be going down to relatively zero twice a month. So then to make things even more difficult for us to not make bad choices, because let's face it, we are creatures of habit, and Profit First is about habit. It's about developing a new habit. We want to remove the temptation because we don't pay taxes every day and we don't get to take a profit distribution every day. Those are things that happen with less frequency. So what we do is remove the temptation by creating additional bank accounts that aren't even at the same bank. They're hard to get to. So once you put money into those accounts, and then you're like, I really want to buy that extra coaching session with Christina because she's so awesome. You're like, well, I can't get to the money. I'm going to have to drive to the bank and find the teller. And where's my mask? There's COVID. And I've made it difficult for myself to get that money. I might change my mind on the way. So we want to make it difficult to get to that money. That's what we mean by remove temptation. It also means that we are forcing ourselves to pay ourselves, because if any small business, most small business owners are like me. When it came time, when I had a negative $34 in my bank account and I knew I didn't have enough money to cover my payroll for my people, I didn't pay myself. I chose not to pay myself. And that's really, really bad. How am I going to build a business if I can't even keep the electricity on? You know what I mean? Like, I have to be paid. If this business is going to succeed, I have to have a basic comfort level. Because what happens when we don't have a basic comfort level is fear gets involved, right? And when fear gets involved, who knows what we do? We do all kinds of stupid stuff when we're scared. Irrational, stupid things. It's like at the beginning of the pandemic, I was like going to the grocery store, soak my fruits and vegetables in hot soapy water for 20 minutes when I came home. It was exhausting. It took me like 4 hours to get the groceries taken care of in the house, you know. But as the pandemic went on and we realized, oh, you're probably not going to get it from your apple that you didn't soak in hot soapy water, we changed our ways, right? So when we are fear driven, our value system changes. And by having all these different bank accounts, it might seem like a pain in the rear at the time, but you are pulling temptation out of your way and you're doing what's best for the business. Okay?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Should the, say the account for taxes and profits, should that be a checking account or a savings account?
Okay, so actually this next slide is good for that.
Okay.
Okay, so your first bank is going to have 5 bank accounts. There's that income account where everything comes into it. This is your main bank, right? It has the income account where everything goes into it. And then these are all other bank accounts. I would say that the operating especially has to be a checking account because there's going to be a lot of transactions out of the operating expenses account. So it has to be a checking account. It kind of depends upon your bank for these other ones. And it depends if you have payroll. So how many of you have employees and you're covering a payroll expense right now? Okay, so we've got all solopreneurs at this time. Okay, Brian,
Yeah,
you've
I've
got
got payroll. Yeah.
Okay, so if you are giving yourself a payroll, chances are that your payroll is coming out of the same bank account that your employees are getting paid out of. Is that the case?
Nah, I mean, I'm terrible with paying myself.
Okay, we've got a cheater here. He's not taking care of himself. So what we would want to see is that Brian is getting paid every 2 weeks on the same schedule like the employees are getting paid. Whatever that that cadence is, we want Brian to fall into the same cadence. So most payroll providers are only going to allow one account to be the funding account for paying payroll. So in Profit First, what we would do is we would set up an owner's pay checking account. And then probably your operating expenses is going to be the one that's tied to your payroll company, your payroll provider. And so it's a different percentage that goes to your owner's pay than goes to your operating expenses. So your income comes in, your income is $10,000 for the past 2 weeks. And you get to keep 35% of that. So 3,500 gets transferred to owner's pay. And 40% of it is getting transferred to your operating account. So that's $4,000 of the money went to the operating account. And then you go to run payroll and you're going to have to transfer that 3,500 from the owner's pay account to the operating account. And then you're going to run payroll and they're going to pull it all from the operating account. Okay. So that's the way that works. Profit could likely be a savings account because we only do profit distributions once per quarter, and tax is similar. Now, it's an owner's privilege to pay for tax through the business. You work hard enough for this dang business. It keeps you busy all the time. You ought to be able to pay your tax burden. Plus, taxes mean that you're profitable, and we want to be profitable. I am not one of these accountants that's going to tell you to spend more money so you pay less in taxes. That is an oxymoron. We want to spend as little as we can so that we can earn as much as we can, right? Because would you rather be paid $20,000 a year or would you rather be paid $200,000 a year? I don't know about you, but I'll take the $200,000 salary, right? And so in efforts to get to the $200,000 salary, I have to make sure I'm controlling expenses. I'm not going to pad myself so that I pay less in taxes. Okay. I want to show a profit. The other reason I want to show a profit is because it makes my business saleable, right? Nobody wants to buy something that never makes any money. I mean, why would anybody buy anything that's not going to make money? You're just going to continue to dump money into it for the rest of your life? No. Okay. Nobody's interested in that sale. If your end game is that you want to have something saleable at the end of the day, you have to show a profit. Okay. So the 5 bank accounts here are at the main account. The one that's not listed is the materials and contractors. Not everybody has materials and contractors. If you're a solopreneur, you might not have materials and contractors. Not everybody needs that account. When I look at our people listening today, I think, Christina, you've got contractors, right? Yeah, I'd say, if you're paying contractors more than 10% of your total revenue, I would have a separate account for it. Okay. Just because then this is what I have saved to pay my contractors, right? And then everything else goes to these other accounts. And then at a second bank, an out of the way bank, that's where we put our savings account that has the profit hold and the tax hold. Okay. And we do that because it's inconvenient and a pain in the ass if we want to spend that money, right? You'd really have to think it through because you'd have to go there. It just makes it more difficult to get your hands on that money to pay for that thing that you're thinking about spending your money on. Okay. So
Is it sufficient to use like PayPal as another holding? So I pay people through PayPal. Is that okay to use as like a holding station for that capital?
It seems like PayPal has a lot of different bank options now.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot more than what they initially started out with. So I don't know their full offering today as opposed to years ago. I don't have any current clients that use PayPal as a hold account, but I'm not ruling it out as an option.
Okay. It's been easier for me, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's tucked away. You got to do another login. It just makes it more difficult. That's the whole point of it, is we just want to make it more difficult. I mean, it's nice if it earns some interest, but our interest rates right now on a savings account are like less than 1%. Right. So you're not killing it with the interest, So.
Okay.
Okay, so that's all the different bank accounts. The next rule then is frequency.
Sorry, I do have one question, if you don't mind. Mm-hmm. So like every one of these business accounts too, they have like different fees attached to all of them. Like do you have a suggestion for how to manage that?
Yeah, some banks are better than others.
Oh, okay, that's a good one too.
I have a list of banks I can provide to you.
Okay.
It kind of splits the country. You're in St. Louis market?
Yeah.
So it does split the country into different zones and lists some banks that I bank personally in the Chicago market at US Bank, and they have free business banking. Of course, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but I don't need all the bells and whistles because I'm not a $5 million business. So I have free bank accounts, and I have 5 set up there, and then I have 2 at Chase. Chase, I find Chase is really big in the Chicago market. Shirley and Rachel, are you guys Chicago market people? Do either of you bank at Chase?
No, I bank at Huntington Bank.
Okay.
Wintrust Bank. And then I have the account that I can't get to is actually a Capital One business account.
Oh, okay. Excellent. How about you, Rachel?
Yeah, and I'm actually looking for a business bank account right now. That's how early I am in my journey here. But I have heard about US Bank in the Chicago region. So
US Bank is not as location, like there's not as many locations as Chase, but there's still a fair amount of locations. Fifth Third isn't bad in this market as well. I do have that list and I can provide it to Christina and she can forward it on to you with the different banks in the different markets. But I do US Bank and I can have basic accounts set up there. I love what I was going to mention about Chase is that I absolutely love their online portal. And, we're online with a lot of banks because we're doing bookkeeping and accounting for our clients. So their technology and their online platform is second to none. They have the best, but they also charge $15 per account per month. And you're a small business owner. You don't want to pay $15 per account per month. It's just, it ends up being money you don't need to spend. So I don't recommend them.
Yeah, I was with Chase at one while and I just got tired of them taking $15 because it's at that time, I don't get paid until I book a speaker. And so if it wasn't a speaker being paid, it's like that 15. It was great to have the ability to send an invoice to the clients and they pay directly without having to pay in the wire transfer fee. But it was really offset by the $15 fee. And so now I just use bill.com to receive payments.
Okay. Yeah. So bill.com charges you a little bit. If you are a QuickBooks Online user, I would suggest just sending your invoice ACH, and they can pay ACH, and it costs 50 cents.
Oh, okay.
So then they get an e-invoice, and then they click and pay. They have to enter their bank account number and their routing number. And on your QuickBooks Online, there's a box for ACH and there's also a box for credit card payment. Well, if you do credit card payment, then you got to pay credit card processing fees.
Right.
So you want to make sure that the box that's checked is for ACH and the box for credit card processing is unchecked. So they don't have that option. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so the whole thing about frequency, going back to that dieting annotation, we lose weight when we do the same thing repetitively, right? We're doing a calorie deficit. We're getting the daily workouts in. We're eating our vegetables. We're counting our calories. So that's what Profit First is all about, is let's just repeat it until it becomes a habit, until it's absolutely, completely, 100% ingrained in who we are. We've changed our habit and it works, right? So in Profit First, we're implementing a rhythm. And the rhythm is 1, to allocate, 2, to distribute, and 3, to pay bills. So we're doing that twice a month on the 10th and the 25th. And then quarterly, we get to do the profit distributions. And quarterly, we reallocate our caps, current allocation percentages. So that was the 10% for profit, the 35% for owners pay, the 40% for taxes in column B that we looked at. Those are our caps. Okay. And I'll tell you, if any of you goes home tonight and looks at your financials and said, oh, look at me, I'm right on, I'm paying myself 35% of every dollar of real revenue, I would absolutely congratulate you, because that's just, it's very, very, very unusual. You should give yourself a huge hug and maybe fly to Mexico and go lay on a beach for a while, because it's rare. Okay. So, and we haven't been paying ourselves for 6 months, or we pay ourselves every other time or every third time or something like that. We can't just start paying ourselves 35%. It doesn't work that way. We start paying ourselves 1%. Well, then we move up to 2%. Then we move up to 3%. As we're cutting back, changing other business processes, we're improving and able to pay ourselves more. So that's what quarterly reallocation is about. It's about saying, okay, today I am paying myself 8% of real revenue, but this quarter I'm committed to paying myself 10% of real revenue. And next quarter, I'm going to move that up to 12%. And in efforts to do that, that means that this quarter, I'm spending 58% of my real revenue on operations expenses. I need to get that down to 50%. And next quarter, I'm going to get it down to 45%. So one day at a time, one allocation at a time, one rhythm at a time, 10th and 25th, right? We're always looking to improve those processes.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not using a payroll system to pay your contractors, or if you don't have employees yet, like myself, how do you suggest that I go about paying myself? Should I write myself a check? Is it enough to do like a balance transfer, or what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, you can just do a balance transfer. What's your entity type?
LLC.
You're an LLC, single member LLC?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you can just take distributions, and all that is so your owner's pay, Christina, would go from the income to your personal account if you wanted to do that. Okay, so you could say, whatever, 15% of real revenue goes to Christina. And this week I had $1,000 in revenue. So I'm going to transfer 150 of it over to my personal account.
Okay. Okay. Because I know my accountant was telling me to like write checks and notate it as like a member's draw, but I didn't know if that's the same as like a true like payroll expense, more than me just like drawing money from the account.
Yeah, so a single member LLC can take a member's draw. It's basically the same thing as a distribution. You might have heard that.
Mm-hmm.
A single member LLC is typically not going to have a salary or a payroll in the traditional sense that they're not paying payroll taxes on every dollar that they're paying themselves.
Got it.
Okay, so of that 150 that you paid yourself, there's no payroll taxes subtracted from it.
Got it. Okay.
What was the pay for owners paid for real revenue under 100,000? What was the percentage?
50.
50. Okay.
Yeah. So that means 50,000 for you, Brian.
Yeah.
That's where you're trying to get to.
That's where I'm working to. All right.
Okay. So just keeping going with that rhythm, that frequency, it's that 10th and 25th rule. And I kind of talked about it already. It's the one day at a time, one allocation at a time. We make improvements every day, right? Not everything happens overnight. So we don't just get to start at 50%. We might start at 10% and work our way towards 50%. Typically, it takes at least 18 months for a company to fully get to their allocations. Ideal allocations, should I say. So, you're talking about 18 to 24 months. It can be 2 years of implementation before you get to your ideal allocations. Okay, and then I just wanted to mention, I don't know if you guys have heard of James Clear. He wrote a book called Atomic Habits, but it's not necessarily about profitability in a business, but it's basically the same concept of, the things we do over and over every day. We're leading by example, right? We do the same things over and over every day. And he's got a crazy story of what happened in his life and how he overcame adversity. And it's those atomic habits that you do every day. So, if you're a runner and you want to run a marathon, will you go out and run every day? Is every day going to be a good day? No, you're going to suck some days. But if you go out and run every day, maybe 50% of the days will be good. It's just about building that repetition into your mind and continuing with it. Okay, so we've been through the 4 rules of Profit First. I'm going to repeat them again. First, we're dividing our money into small plates. The small plates are all these different bank accounts, right? The second one is that we're choosing our veggies first, okay? So we're following those allocations. We're putting the money into the right account so that when we pay that bill, it will be spent out of the right account. And if you have operations expenses and you've, say your operations expenses were at 67% and your income came in at $10,000, so your real revenue came in at $10,000. You transferred $6,700 of it to the operations expense account. And then you went to pay bills. And turns out you have $7,800 of bills to pay. So you are $1,100 short. And this is where the road meets the rubber. You have to say, okay, what am I going to do? I can rob from Peter to pay Paul. I can pick up the phone and call my vendor and say, hey, you know what? I can't pay you today, but I should be able to pay you on the 25th, right? And then you can go back and look at your expenses and say, do I really need this membership to this thing that's costing me $500 a month? So I'm not encouraging you to not pay your bills, but at some point you have to decide, hey, I have to make better choices. I have to cut some things back. So there is no harm in communicating with your vendors and saying, you know what, I can't pay you today, but I'm going to be doing this again 2 weeks from now, and I should be able to pay you 2 weeks from now. Okay, and some vendors, of course, are easier on that. Some vendors aren't very easy on that, like American Express. They are not very easy if you don't pay your bill in full. Okay, so some places there's flexibility, some places there's not. At some point, if there's overspending and it's consistent, you have to cut. Okay, so that's what I'm going to say about rule number 2, veggies first. Rule number 3, again, is remove the temptation. So it's setting up that inconvenient bank account so you don't spend money on things that you shouldn't spend money on because you have to work harder to get to that money. And the 4th rule is to set up a frequency. It's rinse and repeat, like build that atomic habit, make it happen. Okay, so deep breath. Is anybody terrified at this point? I love it. Brave people. That's awesome. So I think that it's important to remember that it can be a bit overwhelming and difficult, but don't worry, that's a very normal experience, right? So just keep doing, just keep swimming, like Dory says in Finding Nemo, just keep swimming. You're a winner because we're here with the Winners Club. So we just need to keep working that opportunity to flex our muscles and improve our strength. And I wanted to tell you where I started. So you are good enough, you are smart enough, and doggone it, people like you. So that's my encouragement to you. I wanted to tell you my numbers. When I started this in late 2016, early 2017, I was operating at a loss. It was a decent loss for the size of my business at that time. Since then, I've been doing this for 4 years. I have only grown revenue by about 10%. Okay, so that's not a big total revenue increase. But what I have also grown is my owner's pay is up 63% from where I was 4 years ago. And here's the big one. My profit, the profitability in my company is up 340%. So 340%, because I just kept swimming. I just kept doing, do I need that subscription? Maybe I don't need that subscription. Oh, do I need to go to this networking luncheon that costs $50? Maybe I don't need to go. I just kept pushing on it. So it really, really does work. It takes time, but it works. So you might be asking, what do I do now? What do I do today to get started? So the first thing you do is get your butt to the bank, okay? The first account that you're gonna open is that profit account. And even if you are operating at a loss today, you are going to start putting 1% into that profit account, okay? The next thing, the easiest next thing to do is to get all the other expenses out of your income account. So if you have a lot of expenses coming out of your income account, most people, when they start Profit First, they have one business banking account and all transactions in the business flow through that account. So what happens in Profit First is you then set up all these accounts, and the first thing you need to do is you need to contact vendors and say, hey, I have you set up on automatic payment. I need to change my bank account. You can't use the bank account ending in this number. You have to now use the bank account ending in that number, so that you're separating your income account from these other expenses. And I suggest, if you're a one bank account person, if your business is run currently on one bank account, to leave that one account be the current account, be the income account, because we never want to mess with money coming in, right? If somebody's, if you've already got credit card processing set up and that credit card processing funnels into that one operational account, we don't want to mess with that. We don't want to change it. So leave the one income account be your income, leave the one account be your income account, and go set up other new accounts with different names and different purposes. And then what you do is you look at all the expenses that are coming out of this current one account. And when you call your vendors and say, hey, I have to change which account this is being paid from, then you're also determining if that expense is necessary for your business or if you're ready to let go of that, right? Because hopefully in that process, you're going to say, you know what, I don't really need this. I'm going to cancel this. So then you call and cancel it, okay? And the other thing is, like, I don't think it's a good idea to set up your credit cards on automatic payment. I think that you need to pay it every time because you need to see how much you're spending. And if you have expenses, specifically, I'm going to say Rachel and Brian. So you bought some materials and you put it on the credit card. I would have two credit cards. I would have your materials credit card and I would have your operations credit card, and use those accordingly for the correct expenses, and then pay those credit cards out of the appropriate account. Okay, and the other thing that I'm going to say about that is, changes in payment cycle. So if you come to realize that your telephone bill and your credit card bill and your rent bill are all due on the 3rd of the month, switch up the cadence. This is also the time when you're calling and changing the bank account that you can say, hey, you know what, that's not a very convenient time to me. Can we change this to the 23rd of the month, or whatever day is better for you, so that you kind of are dividing up the money as it comes out of your account. So that's a good idea too. But that also goes to how you collect in your business. So I know in my business, I have a lot of recurring sales. And guess what? We bill all of those on the 1st of the month. So around the 5th of the month, my income account is fat and happy, and I like it that way, right? But that's the way we collect money. So do I want to then pay all my bills around the 10th of the month because I know I got all that income in around the 5th of the month, or would I rather space it out to go throughout the month? Okay. So the first thing we're doing then is getting our butt to the bank and getting these bank accounts set up. We're putting that 1% in the profit account. that is your declaring of permanent profitability. That is saying no more, I'm not going to be operating at a loss. I declare permanent profitability in my business. Okay, 1%. It doesn't seem like much, but it's a place to start. And that's the most important thing. People will say, should I start profit first now? I'm not profitable. Should I start profit first now? I'm new to business. Yes, start profit first now. Start it today. Okay. There are only two ways to be more profitable in business, and neither of them has to do with selling more. Okay. The two ways to be more profitable in business is to increase your margins or to cut expenses. Okay. So increasing margins doesn't mean selling more. It means raising prices. Okay. You're either going to raise prices or you're going to cut expenses. Those are the two things that are going to improve the profitability of your business. Selling more, not the solution.
You can also do both too.
You can do both, and you can sell more too. So that's a threefold impact. Okay. So take your profit first always. Now it makes sense, right? Sales minus profit equals expenses. So now we're setting ourselves up for permanent profitability. It's going to work. So we want to focus on what comes first. The first thing that happens is we set up the bank accounts. We start allocating our money. There's an important law to remember. It's called Parkinson's law. Our demand expands to meet the supply. The example of Parkinson's law is typically a tube of toothpaste. So, you know, when the tube of toothpaste is new and you go to brush your teeth, you throw all this toothpaste on your toothbrush and you brush away. When the tube of toothpaste gets to the end, you work that thing. You're squeezing out, trying to get that last bit of toothpaste. Were your teeth any cleaner on day 1 than they are on day 30 when there's less toothpaste in there? Probably not. That same concept applies to our money in terms of if the money's there, we will find a way to spend it, okay? Because that's our psyche, right? If the money's there, we find a way to spend it. If you've ever met somebody who's like won the lotto or got a big inheritance, and then they say something like, I don't know how I'm gonna spend it all. Guess what? If you talk to them a month later, they figured out a few things. They figured out some ways to spend it. So it's just the way our psyche works. So by setting up these different bank accounts, what we're doing is now we don't have to remember, oh, this check is coming out. Oh, and then my AT&T bill comes out on the 18th of the month. You don't have to remember that on the 15th of the month that your AT&T bill is going to be paid on the 18th of the month. Now you look at your bank accounts, pull them up on your phone. It works because there's money in those different accounts and you know that it will be enough to cover your expenses. So the deposits are dictating the expense and we are leveraging that behavior. We're not fighting it. Okay.
I have another question too. So like so all of your accounts, are they all in the same banks or you have like some in a different bank or what?
Yeah, you can put that profit hold and that tax hold account at an inconvenient bank.
Okay, so when you say you use QuickBooks, right?
I do. Mm-hmm.
So on QuickBooks, is that somewhere you could go and have like a snapshot of all your accounts? Do they have an option for that?
Yeah, so you want to look at your balance sheet for that. A great report to run is a balance sheet comparison. It shows how much cash you have today in comparison to how much cash you had at the same time last year. I wrote an article about this in my last newsletter, my February newsletter, which just came out a few days ago. And you can find me on LinkedIn under Angie Noll, and on Facebook, we're under Reconciled Solutions. And if you go to either one of those sites, you'll be able to pull, or you can go to my website, which is reconciledsolutions.net. But there is an article there that will step-by-step guide you through running a comparison report. Those are the same reports you're going to need if you're trying to qualify for round 2 of any PPP funding or any of this kind of stuff.
Well, I guess I was talking about like on a just day to day. Like if you wanted to know what the balance of all of these accounts were, do you have a tool that would put them all up in one, just on one page? Kind of like I have a couple of different accounts with regions. So if I want to know my status of my accounts, I can just go there, pull them up, and it just says the balance is right there.
Well, your main dashboard of QuickBooks, if it's kept up to date, is going to have the balance of your accounts. So if you've kept it up to date with the transactions, then that first dashboard is going to show your balance. You can also log into the banks, but you would have to log into 2 different places if you have 2 different banks. Okay. Or you can run a balance sheet in QuickBooks. What other questions are out there?
I did have a question about paying your profit on a quarterly basis.
Mm-hmm.
So would that percentage come from what's in the income account at that point, if it's not being allocated out monthly like some of the other, or twice a month like some of the other expenses? Like, are you taking the imbalance of that income account to determine the percentage of profitability, or where do you pull that number from since it's quarterly?
So quarterly, just because you're paying it to yourself quarterly doesn't mean you're not allocating to there twice a month, just like you're allocating to.
Okay.
So you have that profit account on around the 10th and the 25th, you're transferring all the income out of the income account into the different accounts. It builds up all quarter. And then, at the end of the quarter, it's party time. Okay. So I do want to talk about that. You bring up a good point. I forgot to talk about party time. So party time is very, very important because it's a celebration of your change of habits. And so the first quarter profit distribution, I tell my clients the first quarter profit distribution, we can calculate out how much that's going to be. And I don't care if it's going to be $10 or if it's going to be $10,000. You're going to do something fun with that money. So my clients that coach with me, we figure out, I think that it's going to be about $3,000. And then we set an extravagant goal. What am I going to do that's completely for me that costs around $3,000? Because I am going to spend that money on something completely frivolous and not necessary, right? So that's your first profit distribution, okay? The first quarter, after the first quarter where you show a profit and there's money left in that account, you get to go have a party with that money. Now, the next quarter and the quarter after that, you might have old debts to pay, or you might want to expand and hire another contractor, or you might need a bigger office space. So the profit account is where you go to make those things happen, right? You say, I think I can have, can I hire another person? Do I have enough money to hire another person? Well, you can also set up a drip account, but your profit account is one place that you can go for that. And you can use that money towards paying off prior sins or fixing problems. You can continue to have a party with that money if your business can afford it. I'm all for parties, but that's your discretion the next quarters. But the first time, it's all about you because you've changed your habits. Okay, any more questions? Okay, I think we got them all then, and it looks like I used the majority of our time. So I'm going to tell you what options you have for what's next as far as it's related to working with reconciled solutions. So, again, we've talked multiple times tonight about repetition becoming habit, and I just encourage you to really, really stick with it. This is the free instant profit assessment website. So you can do an instant assessment and then set up a 20-minute one-on-one with me if that's of interest to you. And we can go through those numbers from your profit assessment. I'll put those in the chat so you can grab them there. And then I also have a group coaching product, and that one is taking off on the 23rd of March this time around. And it's called Startup Solutions plus Profit First Coaching. So we are marrying all the accounting principles of good bookkeeping and compliance with the concepts of profit first. So the ideal candidate for that is somebody that is in a professional services based industry who's 1 to 3 years in business and trying to do their own accounting and manage their own QuickBooks file. We'll be going through some of the ins and outs of using a QuickBooks Online file, as well as marrying it with profitability concepts and good financial practices. Okay, I will put these two up in the chat then, if I can figure that out.
And while Angie is doing that, do you all have any thoughts, closing thoughts or comments on what we learned today? I can definitely start. I will say that this is not, and I'm very candid, like this isn't my strong suit here. It's just not. Like I try so hard, but it's just not. But I do think that the concept of profit first is such a great concept, and it's something that was really easy for me to understand, especially laying out the chart with the percentages based on the real revenue that we're bringing in. And that is something that I'm going to start. I don't pay myself. I just kind of let it all sit in one account, and it's just kind of there, you know. But I do think that the idea of breaking it up into separate accounts, I get that makes sense, because now it makes things easier to see, if you will, rather than just having this money here and you don't really know. It's just like everything's on auto pay. Like I don't pay anything because I'm the type of person to forget to pay. So I'm like, let me put stuff on auto pay. But I've also had the things happen where it's like stuff is coming out of my account and I don't even know where it's coming from. And it's like, now I'm having to call people to kind of figure out like, why am I being charged? So this was really helpful. I like really pragmatic things that I can implement today. So that's my feedback. It was really, really helpful for me. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. I think it's really powerful. It really gives you a roadmap for how to run your business. Rachel, I'm going to say it for you as a new business owner, that this gives you a budget, right? So if you're under 100,000 and you are trying to make a decision, if I can afford to buy this or that, well, if I'm putting 30% into operations expense, and this is an operational expense, do I have money in that account to pay for the thing that I want to pay for? There's your answer right there. You don't have to, wrestle with it. If you have money, go ahead. If you don't have enough money to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say, I really enjoy the mindset shift of, putting the profit first, and then that different equation rather than the profit minus expenses equals, or excuse me, revenue minus expense equals profit. I like that mindset shift, especially me starting up. And it's a great way. And I think that'll really help me as I start growing more. So I think this was really beneficial, as well as exact to the different bank accounts as well will be helpful, because I have noticed that too. Say if I know I have this much to spend, I've had to give myself a budget, because then I know how much I can allocate in my personal life. But this also is great for a business as well, because I'll be able to allocate certain amounts. And having that chart too as well is a great way, kind of a good way to reference and to feed off of, okay, what's doable at this time. Mm-hmm. So this is really beneficial for me. And and I just want to thank you for all your great insights on this. So
absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's fun stuff. I love it. As you can tell, I get very excited about it.
Absolutely.
What about you, Shirley? Any closing thoughts or anything that stuck out for you?
Yeah, it was really good because I think it was 2 years ago when I set up two additional accounts, and I just did it. I didn't realize it was something um, that was like a system or process. And I did one. One account was to set up to put money in to make sure taxes were paid, and then to separate out the money that I would have to pay for it to pay the speakers their percentage. So I took that out. So, um, but I never thought about putting up an owner's pay. I just did the allocation for myself because I have an LLC. So I just have a percentage that goes out for myself to cover my living expenses. And then I just use the rest of the account if I have to pay a contractor or a Fiverr contractor, so to speak, to do some things. So this makes sense. I really like this. This is a good concept. And I think it really will help you see the real picture of your business as
Yeah.
opposed to just having that one account. And so you really see what the profitability of your business.
It's so impressive to me, Shirley, that you kind of figured some of these things out on your own, not having, that direction or that structure, but just saying, if I open another account, this is going to really kind of help me separate my money and have a purpose for each dollar that comes into the business.
Yeah. Yeah, you get a tax bill and you don't have any money saved for it. That'll change your mind on that.
Yeah. And that happens a lot, doesn't it? All of a sudden there's a surprise tax bill.
Yeah. So I started putting money away for, each time I got paid. So I first put a percentage of money away so it wouldn't be such a big shock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you. It means you're profitable.
Yeah. We get in there more and more.
What about you, Brian? Bring us home. Thoughts, feedback.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was good too. Like they kind of gave us benchmarks, which I appreciate. Man, like my cost of goods sold and operating expenses are pretty high for especially with having like so many part-time employees, and it's just this is a hard thing to kind of just tighten up. But just in this conversation, well, listen here, I can't get around not raising prices more. So it's got to happen.
Yeah, your industry's been hit so hard with COVID, right? So do know that, I hope you're going through all the different CARES Act stuff and the second round because you should qualify for that stuff. You get 3.5% or 3.5 times your monthly payroll on the second PPP loans.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because you're in the food industry, restaurant industry. Because everybody else gets
That's good to know.
0.5%.
Yeah, that's good to know. So make sure you do that.
Definitely.
Angie
I'm waiting on it
can
now.
help you. Yeah, good. Very good. Okay, well, Angie, if you want to close us out with any last thoughts or parting words, again, I really appreciate you doing this masterclass. It was very, very helpful. I'm gonna, I like to be able to have these to send to people when I start getting questions where it's like, I kind of know, but I don't really know. But guess what? We did a masterclass. So this was really, really, really helpful. Like a lot of good takeaways that I will remember them. I guess that's what's important. Like you get good information all the time, but like it's some stuff that I really am that chart did it for me, honestly. Like you gave the different revenue scales, you gave that's all I needed. And then explaining to me, okay, so now you make these different accounts. So now you have an income account. Like that just makes so much sense rather than having income sit in different places. You never really kind of know. It's just all over the place. So again, thank you for doing this masterclass. It was extremely helpful. I know that us live and even the people, who are watching on YouTube and Facebook, I know people are going to get a lot out of this. So thank you so much again.
You bet. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.
I want us all to be more profitable so that we can lead the lives that we kind of imagined for ourselves when we went in business for ourselves and decided to step away from the, the drama of working for somebody else. So this is a way to be able to do that.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, if no one else has any comments, questions, or concerns, we can close out this masterclass, put another one in the books. This is really good.
Yes, thank you both. Thank you, Angie, for the information.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Christina.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you both so much.
Thank you guys for your time. Appreciate you.
All right, take care.
Bye.
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 Okay, well, that was another masterclass with the Winners Club. I hope that this was helpful. Like I already stated, it was extremely helpful for me, and I'm sure that everyone else that is watching can say the same. So I want to make sure to ask you all to like, share, subscribe to the channel if you're watching on YouTube, like the Facebook page. We do our master classes every week. Next week, we will have Cassandra Quinn, and she will be doing a masterclass on harnessing your humanity to cultivate success, authentic relationship focused sales. So harness your humanity to cultivate success, authentic relationship focused sales. So we're going to be talking about communication and sales techniques next week. So I highly encourage you all to register for that masterclass. It is on the 22nd. And then I want to leave you with this. Again, we are recruiting for cohort 2 of the Winners Club online course. And guess what? For this course, we have a sponsor that came in and graciously is giving away 3 spots for the online course. So we are accepting a total of 14 participants, and we have again, so graciously been given a scholarship by AWBC magazine. So it's a global professional women's conference, and they work with women all over the world, from America to England to Africa. And so their 14th annual conference, which is this fall, is sponsoring 3 spots for our online course. So if you are interested in the online course and you are not able to afford the cost of the course is $12.50. But let me give you some insight as to why the cost is what it is. You're getting a whole lot in this 8 weeks. So the outcomes for the course are a business plan and a pitch deck. They will both be professionally edited by the writers that work for the Winners Club. Within the 8 weeks, you will have expert guests. You'll have professional marketing, small business marketer come in, a business banker, a lawyer, a business lawyer specifically, and then an accountant, a business accountant. You will have a community of entrepreneurs that you are going through the program with. So again, there will be up to 14 people in the cohort. You'll have an accountability partner. So you will be paired with another scholar that is a part of your cohort, and you all will make sure you are accountable for one another, getting the homework completed on time, which is a huge part. You are going back to school for 8 weeks as a part of this program, but you are working on your business. So this program, additionally, you'll be mastering your 30-second elevator pitch. Every module that we have, every group coaching session that we have, you will open up with your 30-second elevator pitch. So you will master that by the end of the course. But this course is really created for businesses who are startups, who have not created a business plan yet. You may be making money in sales, but you don't really have a true plan put together to say how you're going to continue to grow the business, or let's say you need to get a loan or even a grant for your business and you don't have a structured business plan. this program will be great for you. It's going to give you the structure that you need and the guidance that you need to put together a business plan that can be used as a tool for you. And then it's also for the person who has not quite started their business. They're in the idea phase. You know, you want to start a business, but you kind of don't know where to start. Well, a business plan is absolutely where you should start, especially if you're looking to start a sustainable business that you can eventually be the business owner full time. So you won't have to work a job anymore, but you can truly operate as an entrepreneur full time. You want to start with a business plan. It really lays out how you plan to get from point A to point B to point C. And again, you'll get a professional business coach to coach you through the process of creating this business plan and pitch deck, and then also be able to put you in positions to use it as tools to access capital, to partner with organizations, to get investors for your business idea or your business, etc. So I hope that you do consider being a part of the online course. If you look in the description box on this video, you will see a link for the intake form for the scholarship. So if you are interested and you are not able to afford the cost, please go ahead and fill out that intake form, and I will be touching base with you very soon. Again, cohort 2 starts March 6th. So we are coming up on that pretty soon. So if you know someone who may be a good fit for the program, or you know there's someone out there that you know that is in need of support, additional support in getting their business started or developing out a business plan for themselves, please, please, please consider the Winners Club. We would love to be of support. That is all I have for you all this evening. Again, I hope that you will join us next week on the 22nd for Cassandra Quinn's Masterclass on building authentic relationship-focused sales. So being able to harness your humanity, let me say the title correctly, harness your humanity to cultivate success with authentic relationship-focused sales. So let's grow your business through authentic relationships, through great communication. Next week with Miss Cassandra Quinn. Okay, guys, I look forward to seeing you next week.